Welcome to Legends in Leadership, brought to you by ISF and the Carrington Group. Legends in Leadership is an inspirational podcast featuring the stories of leaders who are making a difference. Our goal is to inspire you with the stories of leaders who come from humble beginnings, overcome challenges, and ultimately rise up to make a difference in people's lives.
Hello folks, this is Dr. Blair Ritchie and I am the Executive Director of ISF. And with me today are my co-hosts Tyler Tallman and Jason Smith, who are family officers with the Carrington Group. I want to welcome everybody to our initial podcast of Legends in Leadership. And one of the fun things we want to do every time we're together is a little leadership trivia. So we just have this fascination with leadership stories. People who, like us, come from humble beginnings and then rise up to be leaders and making a difference in their community. So Tyler, you're going to do the segment for us today. So let me turn it back over to you. And what's our leadership trivia question for the day?
You bet. So we were talking a little bit pre-show about how excited that we are that football season's right around the corner. Got a couple of Horned Frogs sitting next to each other, so we're excited for college football and TCU. We've got a Steelers fan and Dr. Blair at the end of the table, and of course Richard with us, Cowboys fan. So we thought it would only be fitting that we would feature something to do with football. So we decided to look at and feature one of the most dynamic defensive players in the NFL. This particular person, by the way, coming out of high school, a one-star recruit, barely made it at a small university in Michigan as a tight end. He did all the things that you have to do to be successful when you don't have a lot of money. So he survived as a pizza boy, delivering pizzas. But his leadership lifted an entire community of people when their city was almost blown away and flooded. Do you know who today's leadership legend is? And when we get to the end of the broadcast, we'll talk a little bit about that. So send it back over to you, Blair. Thanks,
Tyler. Looking forward to the answer to that one. That's a good one. I'm sure it's a Steeler, but maybe not.
Oh, come on.
Well, we're excited today to welcome our guest in our Legends in Leadership podcast today. When you live in Dallas, you don't get to kind of brag about the beaches or the mountains, but we have such a vibrant business community with some great, incredible leaders. And the one thing about Dallas is we eat very, very well. And the restaurant community here in Dallas is one of the most vibrant. And today, it's our joy to have one of the legends in the leaders of the restaurant community. 25 years ago, I understand, Richard Chamberlain opened Chamberlain's Steak and Chop House. Congratulations on the 25th anniversary of that. And since then, he's actually opened the Fish Market Grill as well. And Richard, thank you for being a guest, and we're just delighted to have you today.
My pleasure. It's really an honor to be here.
Well, one of the things that we love to explore on this podcast is how people get to be where they are today, because we don't believe that legends are born or even leaders are born. We may be born with some leadership capacities that differ from each other, but the reality is it's a journey. And we all get to where we are and we all become what we become. And we're always fascinated to ask the question how you got to be you. And so let's go back on your journey and some of the things that formed you along the way. With regards to the leadership journey you've been on.
Well, sure. I'll just give you a quick overview on how I got into cooking because, I'm a chef by trade, restaurateur, really having learned that along the way. I took a home ec class in high school to meet a girl I had a crush on. It's a true story. And I ended up loving the cooking part of it. So on graduation, my mother really encouraged me to go into culinary school. And that really enabled me to get on at the Mansion on Turtle Creek when it first opened back in 1980. And Dean Faring was the saucier at the time. He had moved down from having gone to the Culinary Institute of America. And he was a great inspiration to me. He took me under his wing. He showed me what excellence was all about, that no plate went out of that kitchen unless it was absolutely perfect. And having learned that at a young age, was really, really, really important to me. And the other thing that I learned there was that whether you're in a leadership role or not, always assume you are. That was always Dean's way of doing things. He didn't have the title of chef at the time. He didn't even have the title of sous chef, but he assumed the role of it. He took the responsibility for it and really taught all of us to do that individually in that kitchen.
That's so huge to have that kind of mentoring early on, and to do that. Talk about the challenges along the way for you. What from those beginnings, what are some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those?
Yes, lots of challenges in the restaurant business. Probably the biggest decision in my life. My wife and I were married in 1988. We'll be celebrating our 30-year anniversary this year in November. Very blessed about that. And we found ourselves in Aspen, Colorado as a young married couple. I was a chef of a hotel there called the Little Nail Hotel. It was really, really beautiful, exclusive. We had all the entertainers and all the TV stars coming through Aspen. And there was a lot of pressure. It was a small hotel, but everything had to be perfect. There was a lot of hours. You worked every Christmas, every New Year's. And our daughter was born there. And Lisa and I were faced with the decision, do we continue in our career, or do we take the chance to open our own place and therefore be able to make the decisions ourselves on when we open, when we close, when we have family time? And that was probably the hardest and most important decision that we made in our careers. And 25 years later, it turned out pretty good.
Do you have an entrepreneurial bent to you? Did that feed that, or was that really a big step of faith for you?
Oh, absolutely. As a chef, everyone dreams of having their own restaurant, and it's just not easy. It's a really demanding job. It requires a lot of startup capital, and so you really, it's very complicated. We opened, so the steakhouse just turned 25 years old. We opened our Fish Market Grill 17 years ago, 3 weeks before 9/11. Wow. Probably the second biggest challenge of my life was dealing with that, because, we all faced a really, really difficult financial time. All the air flights shut down. Nobody was eating out. Everybody was in shock. I had borrowed $800,000 to open this seafood restaurant, and I'm 3 weeks into it. I'm thinking, we're in big trouble here. And so we pulled together. As a matter of fact, we ran a special. We had a little money left over. We took out a billboard on the tollway, and all the billboard said was, "All you could eat lobster, Chamberlain's Fish Market Grill." Now, let me tell you, they came out of the woodworks. It was pretty neat. But we've survived some very difficult times, but we've also been blessed with a lot of great years.
Richard, one of the things that just blows my mind right now, first of all, our Metroplex is just booming. And there's restaurants just popping up on every corner, new concepts and all these neat things that different people are doing, but they seem to disappear as fast as they come up. So here you are 25 years in. The steakhouse has been the staple of Addison, which, per capita is one of the busiest restaurant spots in the whole United States. So, I guess for me, it comes down, what's the secret sauce? What are you doing that is different than everybody else to be able to withstand different economies and different markets and amongst so many other restaurant owners?
Well, I really wish I could take the credit, but I can only take a very, very small part of the credit. I'm surrounded with great, great people. Jeff Barker, my partner of 23 years, our CFO, Cheryl Kirshner, Lan Nickens, who's the chef at the steakhouse for the last 18 years, Valentin at our fish market. He's actually second generation to our restaurant. His father started with us 24 years ago at our steakhouse, and he was the primary steak chef, cooked most of the steaks for many years. His son started working for us while he was in high school and learned everything he needed to know about running a kitchen at the Fish Market Grill, and was promoted to the chef position about 7 years ago. So we're into second generation employees, and that to me is the difference in really maintaining a consistent product for many, many years. The other secret is just buying the best products that you can. So great quality products, retain good quality, great quality employees, and then treat people really nicely. Treat people like you're having a dinner party in your house every night. That's the key.
I was reading as kind of a follow-up to that, an article that was written kind of about your secret for hiring people, and talk a little bit about that, because I know for a lot of business owners, making the right hire is a make or break decision, right?
Yes.
And so you've been very good at creating this family environment. So talk a little bit about how you do that. What are the things that you're looking for in people that has created this family atmosphere at Chamberlain's?
Sure. Yeah. Many years ago when I worked at the Little Nell Hotel, Danny Meyer, a very famous restaurateur out of New York who has like Gramercy Tavern and Union Square Cafe, he wrote a book about his Union Square Cafe and their process of hiring, because, New York was always known as like the worst service in the world. People could be rude to you. They didn't care. You just went up. You kind of endured it as a New Yorker. But he said to himself, well, why do we have to have grumpy people serving our food? Why don't we take young people with no experience who have really, really happy, wanting to serve attitudes and train them to be servers? Let's start them from scratch so that they've never had any bad kind of thought in their mind about the service industry. And so really we took that approach. It wasn't about the experience you had, it was about the attitude that you had towards serving guests. And if you were friendly and really had a desire to serve, then you were right for our restaurant. We'll train you to do the rest.
Yeah.
So Richard, as you progressed through your career as a chef, leading a kitchen, and then transitioning into the role of restaurateur, entrepreneur, what did you learn from running a kitchen that's helped you as a restaurateur? And what are one or two things that you needed to learn in order to be a successful restaurateur?
Yeah, so many things. Gus Casigras, one of the professors down at El Centro College when I attended there, he really drilled into our minds that cost control was a key. Coming from a Greek restaurant family background, he knew cost control.
Sure.
And so he really taught us to, really, buy good quality products, give nice portion sizes, but really control all the costs that you can. Save those pennies, because margins in restaurants are very, very small. So he really gave me the framework of that thought, and I practiced that throughout my career. And then later, getting into the restaurant, there were many things that I had to learn from, real estate rent to insurance situations, various accounting functions that I didn't really have a full grasp of early on. Mm-hmm. But again, you surround yourself with really, really great people, and they can really help you along with those types of things. And then probably one of the most important things that I did was firing myself from the kitchen.
Okay.
I realized early on that there's a lot of different functions that a chef and owner has to do, and you just, as much as you want to be on the line and cooking every dish and helping with every dish, you can still be in the kitchen, you can still see all that, but as a chef owner, you have to have the flexibility to be in the dining room, watch things, and be able to just be everywhere. And so firing myself was really key.
Yeah,
That's hard to do.
Hard to do. As a chef, every chef's dream is to help prepare every plate. We want to see every process of every plate, because that's really what we do. That's what we love to do, making sure that everything's perfect. And so I would encourage young chef restaurateurs that want to have their own restaurant to really understand that you can be in the kitchen. You can see what's going on. You can see most of the plates go out, but give that control over to other people so that you can really have the flexibility to visit with your guests, to find out what their needs are, to really grow your business that way.
So at the end of the day, I mean, it comes back to the old relationship thing. I mean, people absolutely grasp onto and find themselves coming back to the places where they feel valued, right, and where they have relationships. So.
Yes. It's much more fun, and I was a super shy guy growing up, and so Dean Faring was the first one that encouraged me to go into the restaurant on his night off to say hi to guests, and they literally had to drag me into the restaurant to do that. I was very much kind of an introvert, shy guy. I love cooking. But to go out and talk to people who I felt were intimidating was very, very difficult for me. But I realized along the way, funny story, when I was working at the Bel Air Hotel in Los Angeles, the chef there, Joe Veneza, he said, "Hey, look, I know you don't like to go to the dining room, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he's one of our best regulars. You need to go out, just say hi to him." And so I go out there, and I was so scared. I was 23 years old, and here I am in this dining room of a nice restaurant and going to talk to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the Lakers. And I walk out there, and I said, "Mr. Jabbar, I'm Richard Chamberlain. I'm the sous chef. And I just want to make sure everything's okay." And his business manager turned to me and he goes, "Do you mind? We're trying to have a conversation here."
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh. I went back to Joe. I said, "Joe, I am never doing that again." But
and then how many more years did it take you to want to go back out in the dining room?
Right? Yeah, but, what you find out as a young chef is that people really want to know what you're doing in the kitchen. And so when you find out that you keep the conversation really about food, find out about them, what their needs are, and just about them as people, it becomes really fun after that. So that's what I focused on.
So you had to grow into that relational, a little bit more outgoing, reaching out to the customer side of that?
Oh, it was painful. It was so painful, and then getting into doing TV and radio. Oh my gosh, it's talk about really tough. It's I try to teach our younger chefs coming up about really how to organize yourself for a TV or a radio show, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong really quickly, especially you're doing a TV show and you've got a 3.5 minute segment, and boy, if you don't have a dish ready at the end of that 3.5 minutes, it's not a pretty deal, because they're cutting away, they're going away. You're about a quarter of the way through your dish, so yeah, there's a lot of things to learn as a young chef.
Yeah. Well, I always admire people who push themselves beyond their comfort zone and really do what it needs to be done to build a business or to grow. Because there are times if you just stay in that little comfort zone, you'll never bust through and achieve what we could possibly achieve. So,
well, it's absolutely true. I got into I started doing some consulting work in the mid 2000s. It took me back to Aspen to help them reopen their hotel at the Little Nell. I helped open a restaurant in Las Vegas, and I did one in Telluride, and I also did a cookbook tour for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association that took me into probably 35 states over the course of 2 years, doing radio and TV, including the USA Today show in New York several times, which required a lot of media training, just a lot of learning about it. And again, as not a natural speaker, it was a real challenge for me to do it. But boy, I agree with you. Pushing yourself to do stuff that you're not comfortable with, man, that's what life is all about, because you just don't know what's out there.
It's crazy to me too, because going to Richard's restaurants since I was little, I've never seen that side of you. This, introverted side. I've always known this Richard, and so for me, it absolutely is amazing to see where you are, and also I admire the fact that you broke through that comfort zone, because you are a natural. This you have fun with this, and so it's pretty cool for sure.
Having fun is the key for sure.
And if you do something long enough, that season of life starts shifting on you, and you find yourself being the one who's mentoring younger guys, right?
Yes.
And so I'm assuming that that's part of your journey these days. It's pretty fulfilling. And so when you're doing that, what are the things that you're finding yourself really passing on to the next generation of chefs?
Yes, I love it when I get an email or a call, or if a guest in my restaurant says, "Hey, listen, I have a son or I have a nephew or somebody who is thinking about a career in either the culinary arts or the restaurant business," because I want to talk to that person. I want to get to know them, get to know their personality first, to find out really if it's a good fit. And then try to help them brainstorm, what part of the industry would be best for them. And I'm not an expert, but I read people pretty well now, having worked with a lot of people. And I just like to let them know what path is best for them and how to get there. And so, I would encourage anybody who has either children or people they know, friends of the family that are thinking about this career, get a hold of me, get a hold of one of the other leading chef restaurateurs in town, and just ask them for a little time, because it really saves you a lot of money. I talk to people who say, hey, my kid, just graduated. He just got a 4-year degree from a liberal arts degree, and now he wants to go to culinary school for 2 years up in culinary, at the CIA. It's going to cost another, $150,000. Should he do that? Well, I need to talk to that kid make sure that $150,000 is really what he wants to do. And usually that translates back to, hey, go get a job in a restaurant first.
Yeah.
Find out if you love it,
Now,
and then proceed from there. Mm-hmm.
Richard, your son, junior or senior at SMU?
He just graduated. Amen. Thank you, Lord. He just graduated from SMU this past May, and right on time, which was very, very important to me and my wife. And he just started a great new job down in Austin. He's in his 4th week of his new job. Talk to him almost every day, and just love hearing the successes, the little successes and the challenges and all those things. But it's real exciting. Then we have a daughter, of course, that's 27. She got married several years ago as a first grade school teacher down in Dripping Springs outside of Austin. And her husband is in the oil business down there. We're really blessed with an incredible family, and probably going to be opening a restaurant in Austin pretty soon, given that both our kids are there.
I'm curious on that. A dad of 2 kiddos, and we have such an interesting culture today. I mean, things have changed dramatically with just access to information and the way that it seems that kids process information. What are the 1 or 2 or 3 things that you've shared with your kids is that this is the things that you need to do to be successful in life? What are the I guess you could say the best things that Dad has said to them that really could set them up for success in their life?
Well, we always taught number one, humbleness. Really being humble in everything that you do, I think, is really key. Working really, really hard at anything that you set your mind to, and again, the training that I didn't have early on was, how to win friends and, meet people and things like that. So I try to introduce books early on when they were in high school, primarily for summer reading, and I would pay them to read important leadership books and important self-developing books, and they would do it begrudgingly. But you hang a new phone out there, and they'll do just about anything you want them to do.
Nice.
And Tori was just talking about how important that book was her the other day, and that she had actually got it out, and she actually did a podcast on teaching this past week. I listened to it this morning on the way here, and oh my gosh, just really, really great to see your kids continuing a legacy in their own careers. And just really doing great.
Let's talk a little bit about your reasons for being such a philanthropic business leader. We at ISF are blessed because we have a gala every fall, and for the past several years, it's been the Taste of Chamberlain's ISF Gala. This is our 10th anniversary coming up on October 13th, and once again, we can just add the value that you bring to us as a foundation and a charity that works with foster care kids. And we're just one of many who are blessed by you. So talk a little bit about why you do that, what's important about philanthropy to you, and the whole giving back to the community that you do. It's amazing.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me just say that my mother was the first one to say it, and the Lord gave me a gift. It was a gift of cooking. And I am blessed because there are many opportunities to use that gift to help others. Being a chef, being involved in restaurants allows you the opportunity to involve yourself with many different fundraising organizations, ISF being a very important one, and to help others. I grew up in a very, very difficult young situation as a youngster with just a very challenging, lots of challenges as a young child, not having enough money, at times not having enough food, and so when you get into a situation later in life where you look back and you can see how really God has directed and helped you in so many ways, there's just no question that you want to do His work and giving back. And so really that's my motivation.
That's awesome. Well, as we wrap it up, what somebody's wanting to know where to go to dinner tonight. What's the value proposition that just makes the experience at one of your Chamberlain restaurants so special?
Well, again, I think it's number one, the people. I think when you walk in and the valet parker shakes your hand and says, "Welcome to Chamberlain's," and when you get to the host stand, and one of our general managers or a hostess or a host greets you with "Welcome to Chamberlain's," and then the bartender does the same thing and the server does the same thing, you're feeling pretty welcome by the time you sit down. And really, that's really our mission, is to make people feel very, very welcome, and to humbly serve them, and to buy the best products to put on the table. But it's really just about making people feel special every night.
Well, we love coming to your place, and it is that. It is that feel of coming into your home, and you welcome us and serve us so well. As leaders on our journey and your journey, there's a lot of input we've had with regards to things we've read, and we like to ask our guests, what have you read in your journey with regards to leadership that has been the most impactful, and the takeaways that you've gotten from that particular favorite leadership book?
Well, most of my books were service oriented because we're in the service industry, and so Marriott wrote a book many years ago that really talked about how to go above and beyond what the service expectations are. And I'll also say that Zig Ziglar was a really inspiring person to me in that regard, attending his classes at Prestonwood Baptist Church for many years. But it really, in the service industry, we try to separate ourselves from everybody else in our categories. And it's really by going above and beyond what's expected. And for example, during our early days at the restaurant, I gave a speech on, let's do something tonight. Everybody do something tonight that is above and beyond what the guest expects, anything. And so one waiter took it really to heart, and some people were thinking about going to a movie. And this is back before there were iPhones and you could look it up. And so he decided he was going to send a manager down the street to get a newspaper because some guests were contemplating going to a movie, but they didn't know it was showing. And so when the manager came back and the server presented this newspaper to him, and they could, see, make these, those choices on their movies, that was way above what any other competitor would have done that night. And so we learned early on that doing those little things creates customers for life.
Absolutely. That's rich stuff. Well, thank you, Richard, for being with us. It's been a great podcast, and we're so grateful for your being here. Congratulations again on the 25th anniversary. It's a big milestone for you all, and also for your partnership with ISF. We appreciate all you do for us.
Thank you. Well, ISF is really, really dear to my heart, helping young children that are facing very difficult situations, and helping them to get educated and to be successful in life is a great cause. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, Tyler, I'm going to send it back to you because you launched a little trivia question, and I'm sure our guests or our listeners are excited about who is this guy, who is this leader?
Yeah, we're following along with that football theme as we approach football season. As a Cowboys fan, I got to tell you, this one was a little bit hard, but we all remember the tragedy of Hurricane Harvey was one of the costliest natural tragedies that we've faced in the state of Texas. Over $125 billion worth of damage that caused from beginning to end as it roared through the ocean and up through the Gulf. But this particular guy absolutely took it upon himself to make a huge difference and is somebody that we would definitely call a living legend. He set a goal to raise $200,000, and in just under a week, he raised $37 million from 200,000 donors. And so J.J. Watt, an unbelievable football player, Defensive Player of the Year last year, truly is a living legend, and his influence really helped reshape the lives of so many down in Houston. So that's what our show's about, is to feature those types of people. And he didn't have to do that, but just his influence made such a huge difference.
Great story. Great story. Thank you. Well, folks, that's a wrap for our podcast today. In behalf of Jason Smith and Tyler Tallman and our special guest, Richard Chamberlain, this is Blair Ritchie wishing you a great day today. And just want to remember the words of John Quincy Adams, who once wrote, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader."
Legends in Leadership is brought to you by ISF and Carrington Group. ISF is committed to leadership development for aged-out foster care and orphan youth. ISF's mission is to transform these youth into tomorrow's leaders with scholarships, mentoring, and leadership training. Google International Student Foundation to learn more. Carrington Group is a family office with a passion for helping business leaders and their families make smart choices and fulfill their highest aspirations. Google Carrington Group Dallas, Texas to learn more.
Securities offered through Regulus Advisors, LLC. Member FINRA/SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Regal Investment Advisors, LLC, and SEC-registered investment advisor. Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors are affiliated entities. Carrington Group and this broadcast are independent of Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors.